Lipo Sculpture Talk, Episode 7, iLipo, Part 2. I hope you first had a chance to listen to last week's episode.
So that whatever area you decide to work on, you can see specific
We followed Maggie Miller
results
from FamilyFrugalFun.com, where she shared her iLipo treatment experience last week.
They take all of your measurements.
The original iLipo device, we use low-level laser therapy.
And Kevin Williams, the CTO of Chromogenix, explained the iLipo technology for us.
Within the fat cell to get the fat to be naturally released.
Today, we have a lot more of the interview with Kevin Williams, the CTO of Chromogenix, and Justin Richards, the Director of Global Marketing. Some of the interview may be of exclusive interest to clinics that are considering adopting non-invasive fat sculpting technology. We're going to be covering new advances with the Ultra and the brand new iLipoXcell adjuncts. Kevin will express his thoughts on introducing cryolipo, or fat freezing technology, into the iLipo device. Justin will talk about training for the iLipo and the iLipo appearing in high street locations. That's locations beyond the plastic surgeon's office. The iLipo Ultra came out as a second-generation advance of the iLipo device. It added to the benefits of the low-power diode laser technology of the iLipo. It includes a vacuum massage handpiece. Here's Kevin.
The Ultra was added for the second generation, and what we realized is we wanted to get better empty in the cell. So what we were able to do is, first of all, put it on a fairly high power to squeeze the fat cells to make sure the fat had come out of the cell. Then we were able to put it on a lower setting to create a manual lymphatic drainage. So you can imagine we have sweeping movements from the abdomen towards the lymph nodes to create this lymphatic drainage, and that improves the result by about 50%.
Okay, so the massage helps to push out the free fatty acids away from the storage areas so it can be metabolized into the general circulation. Can you explain why this changes the need to exercise immediately after a treatment? Because I understand with the Ultra's lymphatic stimulation, there isn't a need to exercise as there previously was.
When the fat comes out of the cell, in the past, we would have had to exercise before the body would start taking it away. But by stimulating the lymphatic system, using these separate diodes, the fat then is immediately picked up by the lymphatic system, immediately transported into the bloodstream to be used as energy. So the moment you go and exercise, the body's already in fat-burning mode because it's got released free fatty acids in the bloodstream, so it's able to pick them up. So it's not the case of like when you go to the gym, you have to exercise for 20 minutes before the body will start burning fat. Because we're releasing it naturally into the bloodstream, the body will, as soon as you go into any sort of workout, the body will start burning up fat immediately. So for every minute of treatment, we need to do about a minute of exercise. But the exercise can be, it depends on the individual. If you're someone who's super fit, then you would need to go to the gym. If you're someone unhealthy like myself, then I just need to go for a walk. It depends on the individual.
So if you don't exercise after your treatment sessions, I guess you stand the risk of the fat going back into the fat cells? Yeah, a certain amount of that fat will go back into the cell then, and that depends on the individual, depends on their metabolic rate. There was a study that we produced in France where they showed, in their study, there was very little exercise involved after treatment. They just wanted to show the machine, and they had about a 50% of the result we would expect. So if you don't exercise, you will get some result, but the best result is when you exercise afterwards. The Ultra is quite effective on cellulite, isn't it?
The other application behind the Ultra is that we can use it to break up connective tissue. So, for instance, if someone's got cellulite, we can use it on a crisscross motion to break up the connective tissue. So the main applications are for cellulite and emptying the cells and lymphatic drainage. And that made a big difference to the product when we introduced that.
So the iLipoXcell is now on the market. It's the newest, third generation iLipo. You've introduced RF energy into the treatment. It stimulates skin shrinkage. So what's the background behind RF? Why did you bring it into iLipo?
The XL, it was one of our customers had fed back, is that If you have someone who comes in with, a lot of fat but extensive loose tissue as well, then we can remove the fat, but we really couldn't do anything for the loose tissue, loose skin afterwards. So one of our users suggested that we added radio frequency on the iXcell device. We added a high-powered radio frequency, and the radio frequency, it's 120 watt output. It's a very high-powered radio frequency. The radio frequency was used in a couple of ways. First of all, it was used to tighten the tissue afterwards. So if someone came in with loose skin, we could tighten the tissue. It would also help for stretch marks. It's very good at producing, helping them stimulate collagen to help with stretch marks. But the other side effect of radio frequency is you can also use it to stimulate and increase the metabolic rate. So we were less reliant, when we introduced the iXcell, we were less reliant on exercise. A certain amount of fat you can burn up immediately by using radio frequency. So again, that made a difference.
First, you use the low-level laser therapy, used first to get the fat out of the cell. And then the vacuum massage kind of aids in pushing the fat away from the cell. And then you use radio frequency for firming up the skin. But one more thing the iXcell then added.
The patient diagnostic system. We did a multi-patient study in the UK, and results varied from people at the top end getting a 12 centimetre reduction to people at the bottom end, this is a one-off treatment, only getting 2 centimetre reduction. And that was a pretty repeatable curve when we did results in other countries as well. But when we looked at the low end compared to the top end, we realized that people at the low end tended to suffer more from cellulite. And when we measured the hydration levels, we're dehydrated compared to the people at the top end. So that meant they had compromised lymphatic systems. Now, after about 3 treatments, everyone will get to the same result. But what iXcell allowed us to do in the iXcell, we built into it a patient diagnostic system. So now we can screen every patient. So if someone comes in and we can measure the water level, we can see that they're below 60%, so they're dehydrated. We can then encourage them to drink water before they come in for treatment to improve the lymphatic system.
So I suppose it's a good idea to encourage patients to drink, before a treatment, drink water. But I suppose people get busy and you really never know if they're hydrated or not. And so with the diagnostic system, now you know for sure and, can achieve better results. So I wanted to know, why do you pack so much in a box? Why don't you just sell the low-level laser device separately, the vacuum massage, the RF all separately? Is there a cost savings you're trying to give? Is it convenience for the practitioner? Why is there so much there?
We wanted to offer the best. We always want to improve our technology. We want to offer an affordable system that can give the best result. And if you bought them separately, then it would cost the user more. You've got one control unit, one power supply, one box. So we want to offer the best possible. Sometimes people will say, "Oh, well, I have a radio frequency, but it may be not the correct power or the correct frequency." You have to have the correct frequency to be able to get good fat removal.
Sure. RF started with skin therapy, so that kind of a device might not be ideal for body sculpting. Have you ever thought of offering cryolipo, fat freezing technology in the iLipo?
We wouldn't as a company. We would reject it as a board. Or if you look at all our equipment is deemed to be sort of non-invasive and producing natural reactions. I think the problem with cryotherapy is that by freezing the fat cells, you not only damage the fat cells, you risk damaging the surrounding tissue as well. And there are cases in the UK documented of people causing tissue necrosis where they've damaged the nerve endings by getting the treatment wrong, so that tissue starts to die, 6 months, 1 year after treatment. So as a company, we don't really want to get involved in anything that damages the tissue. If you look at all our machines, they're all designed, including our Regenerate skin resurfacing laser, to produce a natural reaction within the tissue.
Well, there's no doubt there's been a big marketing campaign with cryolipo, cool sculpting, here in the U.S. We've been carrying this episode of Liposculpture Talk in a different direction than we usually carry the conversation. We've been going in, I guess, especially for practitioners or clinics that may have an interest in using non-invasive equipment in their office. So we might as well keep going with that idea. When non-invasive treatment options first started coming out a few years ago, I noticed they were found in plastic surgery or dermatology clinics, but now you find non-invasive treatments, like in my area, in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, I find Zerona laser treatments being offered at the local gym. I think it's the Lifetime Fitness. Is there a trend as to how these devices are being more accepted into beauty salons, spas, dermatology clinics, other places beyond the plastic surgery venue?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a change in the marketplace, and you're right, originally all our users would have been the early adopters of plastic surgeons. Most of our users, in the early days tended to be plastic surgeons, dermatologists. We have a lot of now internal medicine physicians and, interestingly enough, gynecologists using the machine. I think that in Europe we're perhaps a bit ahead of the trend that in the USA, because a lot of our systems now would be in sort of high street med spa type environments. So where there's a doctor has set up a med spa and he may have a beautician or a nurse to be able to use the equipment, but people walk into the high street, so you'll find a lot of them in the UK and in other parts of Europe are in the high street and med and spa type places.
So Justin, do you find this a challenge for marketing? In the eyes of the consumer, aren't they thinking this type of equipment should belong in a plastic surgeon's office?
I think the public are now much more aware of these devices and the treatments and the type of treatments. So I think they'll find, their first port of call will either be a doctor's or a high-end spa market. The marketing is pretty robust, and I think consumers just have much more knowledge about it at the moment. And that's the trend. So with regards to the marketing, I don't see it being a problem. I think with social media and word-of-mouth marketing campaigns, the consumers are definitely more clued up than what they used to be.
Clinics like to invest in devices with strong brand recognition. I know you have lots of exposure in Europe, so how is your U.S. marketing campaign coming along?
We have a great PR agency in New York, and they've actually been doing a tremendous job for us. We featured on The Doctor Show, Dr. Oz, from Ricky Lake. The brand is definitely picking up speed.
You bet. It's been having an effect. I remember reading Khloe Kardashian and the other one, Jessica Alba. They went in for treatments, read in one of the tabloids. They were happy, very satisfied customers. So yeah, the word is getting around. Do you have any other rollouts in any other countries?
Yeah, we have, we've just a distributor who looks after Japan for us, and they've only just started taking the XL device. I think Japanese users expect really high-end equipment, so we're having a better success with XL in Japan than we did with iLipo.
You said that the U.S. is your biggest market now, so what's your next?
And I think Brazil is second then.
Interesting. Wouldn't have thought. Can you let our listeners know about training on the iLipoXcell? Is it required? What's involved? What certification is there?
Yeah, we offer a comprehensive training course, which is certified. So we have a test at the end of it as well, which we ask the practitioners to fill in to make sure that people, understand the technology so they can offer, the correct treatment. What we don't want to have is people using the machine, not using it correctly, getting poor results and damaging the brand. So we put a lot of emphasis on training. That's normally it can be depending on the individual's experience, it can be a 1-day course, it could be a 2-day course, and there may be follow-up required, and we judge it on each individual that we sell the machine to.
Okay, you bet. Let's wrap this up there. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Justin Richards. Thank you, Kevin Williams, the guys from Chromogenix.
Okay. And you bet. That's a Minnesotan term.
I use that a lot?
Yeah.
I never knew. Never noticed. Okay, thanks. The guys from Chromogenix, iLipo.com. And also thank you to Maggie Miller from FamilyFrugalFun.com. We heard from her in part 1 of the iLipo episodes.